You walk into a cafe you've never been to before. The air smells like roasted hazelnuts. A man 2 tables over says the name you've been turning over in your head all morning. Not loudly, just loud enough. You don't know him. He's not talking to you. But you hear it. You sit. You check your phone. A number you don't recognize just texted you a quote you wrote in your journal last week. Word for word. You look around. Nobody's watching. Nothing makes sense. But it all feels right. Then a song starts playing. Not a hit. Not on the charts. It's a track from 10 years ago. A song tied to someone you haven't thought about in years, until last night. When they showed up in your dream, smiling, saying nothing, just looking at you. Like they were waiting. You don't know what to do with this. You've had days like this. Moments you couldn't explain. A name, a phrase, a symbol. All appearing when they weren't supposed to. When you weren't looking. You've brushed them off. Laughed. Called them weird. Moved on, but not all of them. Some moments stuck with you. Not because they were dramatic. Because they were precise. Small, clean, and impossibly timed. A word you hadn't heard in years. A street you'd never walked down suddenly feeling familiar. A stranger saying exactly what you needed to hear when you weren't even sure what you were asking for. And deep down, something in you paused. Just for a second. Not out of fear, but recognition. You didn't imagine it. You weren't being dramatic. You weren't manifesting your best life. Something was responding. You were seen. And if that's true even for 1 second, then the whole map changes. What if reality isn't just something you walk through? What if it's watching you too? Let's call it what it is, a disturbance. Not loud, not violent, but unsettling in a quiet, pointed way. A crack in the rules you were taught to trust. You were told life moves in straight lines. Actions lead to outcomes. People meet for reasons like luck or shared interest. Thoughts stay in your head. Feelings stay in your chest. Reality doesn't notice you, it just is. Then something happens. You think of someone and they call. You doubt a decision, then see a message that speaks directly to your hesitation. You hear a song that answers a question you never said out loud. You check the time, same numbers again, no pattern, but not random either. Something's off, but not in a bad way. In a way that suggests something deeper is happening under the surface, something intelligent. And the worst part is, you can't explain it without sounding like a lunatic. So you say nothing, you laugh it off. You file it away as weird. And that's the real danger. Not that these moments happen, but that we're trained to ignore them, to distrust them, to believe they mean nothing. That only what's logical and repeatable counts as real. But here's the question you can't unask. What if they do mean something? What if the timing isn't just a trick of attention, but a response? People joke about the universe sending signs, but what if that's not a joke? What if synchronicity isn't superstition, it's structure? A structure that doesn't shout, but whispers, and only when you're paying attention. Because the second you take these moments seriously, everything shifts. You start seeing the thread. The way one event pulls the next into place. The way your focus seems to trigger movement in the world around you. And you start asking harder questions. Why did this happen now? Why here? Why like this? And if synchronicities are real, if reality can respond, then who or what is doing the responding? This isn't about magic or wishful thinking. It's about the possibility that you're not just moving through a world that's fixed. You're participating in one that's reactive. And if that's true, you need to understand the rules, because whether you believe in them or not, they're already shaping your life. Let's strip the fog and keep things sharp. 3 terms, no fluff. No mystery speak. Synchronicity. A meaningful coincidence with no clear cause. It's not just 2 things happening at the same time. It's when those things line up in a way that speaks directly to you. Like a mirror, but with timing. Carl Jung coined the word. He wasn't talking about magic. He was trying to describe a pattern he kept seeing. A patient dreams of a beetle. The next day, that exact beetle hits the window during therapy. That kind of moment. No logic, no clear reason. But it mattered. Frequency. This isn't about radio waves or new age posters. It means the state you're in. Emotionally, mentally, even physically. What you think about, how you feel, and where your attention goes. That all creates a kind of signal. And that signal affects what you notice. And maybe what happens. RAS, reticular activating system, a filter in your brain. Its job? Decide what's worth noticing and what's not. You see millions of things every day. The RAS lets in about 50 total. How does it choose? Based on what you focus on. You think about blue cars, you start seeing blue cars. Not because they suddenly appeared, because your brain finally let them in. Here's what this is not. It's not about predicting the future. It's not about becoming psychic. And it's not about believing the universe revolves around you. This is about attention, patterns, and the real possibility that the world is more interactive than you were told. You felt it. Now we're going to make sense of it. Now, the idea isn't new. Long before it had a name, people noticed it. A gut feeling. A dream that played out the next day. A sign that showed up at the exact moment it was needed. Most cultures didn't call it coincidence. They called it message. In ancient Egypt, priests studied omens, not to worship the signs, but to understand the rhythm beneath the surface. In China, the I Ching used patterns to reflect human decisions. In early Judaism, prophets watched for signs in nature, in dreams, in timing. Same with early Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. The methods differed. The instinct was the same. Watch, pay attention, patterns matter. Then came the modern mind, the Enlightenment, the rise of science. If it couldn't be measured, it didn't count. Suddenly, reality was just matter and math. Nothing personal, nothing responsive. But not everyone agreed. In the early 20th century, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung began seeing something he couldn't explain. He wasn't a mystic, he was a trained scientist. But again and again in therapy and in his own life, he saw events that didn't follow logic, but did follow meaning. A woman dreamed of a scarab beetle. The next day, that exact species flew into the room. Jung didn't say it caused her healing, but he saw how it cracked something open. The symbol from her dream made contact with the real world, and that collision mattered, so he gave it a name: synchronicity. At the same time, in a different field, Albert Einstein was wrestling with a strange finding in physics: entanglement. Two particles could affect each other instantly, even miles apart. He hated it, called it spooky action at a distance, because it broke the rules. Time, space, logic, all bent. Nikola Tesla saw it too. Not in dreams or atoms, but in energy. He believed the universe ran on frequency and vibration. That certain numbers, 3, 6, 9, were keys. Not just to math, but to understanding the structure behind the chaos. 3 men, 3 paths, same crack in the surface. Jung from the mind, Einstein from matter, Tesla from energy. And all of them, in their own way, said the same thing. There's a pattern under the pattern. We look for patterns because we have to. Not for beauty, for survival. Your brain didn't evolve to understand truth. It evolved to keep you alive. That means noticing threats, remembering signals, connecting dots, even when the logic isn't clear. A shadow in the tall grass, a sound out of place. Your ancestors who noticed patterns lived longer than the ones who didn't. But that instinct didn't go away. It just changed shape. Now it's not wolves we fear, it's uncertainty. Not starvation, but disconnection. And in a world that moves fast and lies often, a well-timed signal can feel like oxygen. Like someone or something is still tracking you through the noise. We need that, because modern life pulls us out of ourselves. We lose time, focus, meaning. Days blur, attention splits. You feel it. Like you're floating through someone else's script. And when a moment hits that breaks the autopilot, it matters. Because it feels personal. And maybe it is. We crave that feeling. Not because we're weak, but because we're wired to want clarity. Certainty, coherence. When the inside matches the outside, we feel grounded. That's not magic. That's biology. The drive for synchronicity goes deeper than curiosity. It hits our need for connection. To feel seen by something beyond the crowd. Control, not over the world, but over meaning. Direction. Signs don't just comfort us, they move us. And when life feels chaotic, we reach for signs more, not less. Not because we're delusional, but because the deeper part of us is still trying to sync with the world. It's not superstition, it's survival instinct, retooled for modern life. When the pattern hits just right, it feels like a compass. Not to fate, but to alignment. You start to believe maybe you're not lost, maybe you're being led. That's why we care. Your brain filters the world. It has to. You're hit with over 11 million bits of data every second. Sound, smells, lights, colors, movements, thoughts. But you can only process about 50. So how does your brain decide what to let in? Simple. It shows you what it thinks matters. And what it thinks matters is based on what you focus on, what you expect, what you believe. That filter is called the RAS, Reticular Activating System. And it's why, after you think about someone, you suddenly notice their name everywhere. They were always there, you just didn't see it. Emotion sharpens this process. Strong emotion locks a moment in. Your brain flags it, repeats it, looks for more like it. It's called pattern recognition. And when your emotions are high, your mind scans for connections faster. Sometimes that creates illusions, false patterns. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the pattern is real, and your brain caught it before you did. Now layer in memory. Your memory isn't a recording, it's a story editor. It rewrites, rearranges, and reinforces what fits your picture of the world. So if you expect chaos, you'll remember chaos. If you expect meaning, you'll remember signs. And then there's intuition. That low-frequency signal in your gut that says, wait, or yes, this. It doesn't shout, it doesn't always explain, but it pulls your attention where it needs to go. Most of the time you ignore it. But on the rare days you don't, something lines up. That's not proof of magic. That's your internal system doing what it was built to do. Track, sense, respond, not just to danger, but to direction. Not just to fear, but to flow. Synchronicity happens when emotion, attention, and belief line up. Your brain filters in a piece of data you normally wouldn't notice. It connects to a thought you just had. It lands with impact because your system is tuned to it. And it feels like a message. Because to your mind, it is. And when it keeps happening, you start to ask the real question. Is this all just in my head? Or is my head just finally aligned with something real? You weren't just taught math and reading. You were taught what's real. From the start, you were trained to trust facts, not feelings. To value logic, not instinct. If something couldn't be measured or explained, it didn't count. That wasn't by accident. That was programming. Schools reward answers, not questions. Religion, in many cases, rewards obedience, not observation. Governments reward order, not awareness. A citizen who sees patterns, real patterns, becomes harder to manage. So the system builds guardrails. Call it coincidence. Call it luck. Call it your imagination. But don't call it real. Don't point to the strange timing. Don't trust the moment that clicks without reason. Keep your head down. Keep moving. This kind of conditioning runs deep. You feel it every time you second-guess a gut instinct. Every time you get a signal, then talk yourself out of it. Because somewhere inside, a voice still says, that's not real. That's just in your head. But not every culture teaches that. In indigenous traditions, signs are part of life. The animal you see, the dream you have, the stranger's words, all carry meaning. In parts of Africa, the idea of Ubuntu ties people into a shared energy, a shared knowing. In ancient Hinduism, synchronicity is just karma with cleaner timing. Western culture cut that thread, not because it had better answers, but because it feared what those answers implied, that you're not passive, that you're part of something living, that the world isn't just out there, it's in dialogue with you. And that kind of worldview, it doesn't make you easier to control, it makes you question things. Why you're in that job, why you're in that city, why you keep waking up at the same time each night thinking the same thought. Because if there is a pattern, and if you can feel it, that means you're not asleep anymore, you're watching. And that changes everything. The world tells you to trust science, but when science edges too close to mystery, it backs away. Quantum entanglement says particles can connect across space instantly. But no one talks about what that means for thought, for attention, for consciousness. Psychology shows the brain filters reality based on belief and emotion. But say you saw a pattern that changed your life and you're told it's just coincidence. The contradiction lives in plain sight. You're taught to be rational. But the most rational minds, Einstein, Jung, Tesla, left behind work that points to something much less clean. Something reactive, patterned, maybe even aware. And here's the twist. You already know this. Not from books, from experience. You've had moments that broke the script, felt too sharp to be random, but you didn't tell anyone. Or if you did, you laughed as you said it, softening the edge. Because the world rewards doubt, not trust. Skepticism, not attention. That's the trap. You're allowed to believe in data, just not your own. You're allowed to chase meaning, just not notice when it stares you in the face. You're told synchronicities are wishful thinking, but how many wishes arrive as perfectly timed phrases, names, dreams? How many coincidences hit hard enough to break a routine, shift a decision, or save a life? And if they do, if they really do, then why are we so quick to dismiss them? Maybe because accepting them forces a harder truth. If the world responds to you, then your thoughts aren't private. If meaning shows up uninvited, then life isn't mechanical. If timing can speak, then maybe reality isn't solid. Maybe it's listening, and if it's listening, then so should you. Look around. People don't feel in control anymore. They feel reactive, distracted, lost in noise. But at the same time, more of them are talking about patterns, numbers, symbols, dreams that come true, conversations that answer questions they haven't voiced. They aren't shouting about it, but they're noticing. Search trends for angel numbers and synchronicity have exploded in the last 5 years. Not because people got more mystical, because life stopped making sense through logic alone. And when logic fails, instinct takes over. The modern world is built on disconnection. Work here, live there. Scroll nonstop. Sleep poorly. Eat fast. Then wonder why you feel off. Why nothing clicks? Why time moves fast but nothing moves forward? So when something does click, a stranger says what you needed to hear, a song answers your thought. It lands hard. Because most of life now feels out of sync. And that one moment feels right. People may not call it synchronicity, but they feel the gap between what's happening and what matters, between the system they live in and the signals they keep getting. One says comply, the other says wake up. You're seeing a quiet shift. More people are ignoring the surface, watching the timing, following the thread. Not loudly, but clearly. They're making different choices, quitting jobs, ending relationships, moving cities, not for logic, but for alignment. And when asked why, they say, it just felt right. That's not randomness, that's a response. The system wants order, but order without awareness is just control. Synchronicities break that. They interrupt, they point, they pull. And once you start paying attention, you stop needing permission. Don't chase the signs, tune to them. That starts with one shift, attention. Not just what you look at, but how. Are you scanning for fear or listening for signal? Are you reacting or watching? 3 steps. Keep them simple. Use them daily. Clear the static. Synchronicities don't scream, they whisper. If your mind is loud, scrolling, worrying, rushing, you won't hear a thing. So start cutting noise. Take walks without your phone. Drive without a podcast. Breathe for 5 minutes without a goal. Silence sharpens perception. Presence tunes the signal. Ask clearly. You want answers? Ask real questions, direct ones. Don't beg, don't wish. Just set the signal. What's my next step? What am I missing? Then let it go. Don't force meaning, don't hunt. The pattern will respond when you're steady, not frantic. Act when it lands. Get a hit? A gut pull? A moment that feels too sharp to ignore? Move. Doesn't have to be big. A call, a note, a step. Action confirms reception. It tells your system, this matters. That's how the loop builds. That's how the pattern sharpens. Most people wait for clarity before they act, but synchronicity rewards momentum. You step. The signal strengthens, you wait, it fades. So shift the frame. Don't wait for signs to change your life. Let your life become a response to the signs. Go back to that moment. The red car. The name you hadn't heard in years. The song that hit too close. You didn't imagine it. You didn't make it happen. But you felt it. That's the part that matters, not the story. The signal. This isn't about magic. It's not about control. It's about recognition. The world moved in a way that matched your mind. Just for a second. It lined up, and your body knew. Most people never look twice. They brush it off. They stay asleep. You didn't. You're still here, reading. Which means something broke through. A crack. A pattern. A pull. Now the choice is yours. Not to believe, but to listen. Not to wait, but to respond. Not to explain, but to notice. So the next time the moment hits, that weird flash of timing, that impossible precision, pause. Don't run. Don't overthink. Just stay there for one more beat and ask the quiet question. What if this isn't a glitch? What if this is the point?